I'd like just to pick up a little bit from last night and go on with that as far as a half an hour will let us go, because I really am realizing the importance of giving you a chance to talk back to me, to ask questions about things that I have said, and God has said with me and through me. So we'll see how it goes. Somebody asked me how long a tape should they put on for this morning. I said that's a question only God could answer that. But we'll go through the morning. Last night I wanted to pick up from last night with this thought that the great word, which is now usable and ought to be used in relationship to your thinking as to your own life, is the word irradiation. And if you want to write that on your notebook to take home to ponder about it, and I'll tell you, when you go to look in the dictionary to find out what it means to shed rays of light upon whatever it is you want light on, to illumine intellectually, and we do want God to illumine our minds this week, and on and on and on, to brighten as if with a light. And I think the most beautiful thing is to have a consciousness of the light within you, and also to be conscious. You know, we used to feel that we ought not to be, at least I did, I shouldn't say we, but I was ashamed to let the light shine out from me and to really know that wherever I was, with whomever I happened to be at the time, I shed a light across their path. Then I began to see also that the person I was walking with also shed his light. And you know how light from a lantern shoots this way and this way? And you know, when my light, walking with you, when your light comes this way across my path, my light comes this way across your path, what does it make? A cross. And you know, it's really this tremendous irradiation, this tremendous light that is in each one of us that can do these things. It will illumine me intellectually. Now, I'm not talking about just plain knowledge. I'm talking about the depths of our intellect. To brighten as with a light, to heat with radiant energy. Isn't it wonderful when you get close to a person how much warmer you get? Have you noticed that? And after a while, this room is going to be so hot. I've seen it happen that people begin to shed their coats. You know, this is the thing that's happening, but we haven't recognized this as God's action. Wherever there is new light, wherever there is new heat, God is at work through the power of His Holy Spirit, and this is the thing that cleanses, transforms, redeems, makes new the inside of us. I'm talking this week always about the inside. It's beautiful how Reg and all that Reg is thinking. I almost know what he's thinking now. He knows what I'm thinking because it's all inside. You see, in a sense that I work from inside out. I do not work from outside in. Because you see, the very depth of me is God, and the very depth of me is speaking out from me to you and out from you to me. All right, to spread, the last thing, now listen, to spread or move like rays from a center. That's what it means, the word. To spread or move like rays from a center. Each one of you in this room is a ray of God. Each one of you in this room spreads out from God. And you can feel yourself, the going outness, not the coming inness. I've lived so much of my life coming in. But you see, now I want to live my life going out. And as a ray coming out from God, we will live our lives this week. Last summer, a year ago, we were at Mississippi Camp, and it was a very blessed privilege to be there together. It was the first time Lee had been to a camp since his illness, and when he came home, he wasn't sure that he could take a week of that again, and he hasn't arrived at the place. I believe he will, and I look forward to it. But nevertheless, when we got ready to, we were staying with a precious young couple, and when we got ready to leave, the mother of 4 young children said to me, well, I had been working with Barbara, or sharing with her through a number of years over some periods of growth. And so she said, Ruth, We would just love to give you and Lee something. Well, that's a very exciting moment. So anyhow, I thought, oh boy, what could it be? And then, she said, we have the dearest little dog. I began to crawl under the table because we had one big dog, and I thought, Heavenly Father, no more dogs for me. But anyhow, he said back to me, yes, one more dog for you anyhow. So anyway, she brought in this precious little Yorkshire Terrier, Chipper. Her hobby is to raise little dogs and registered dogs. She has 3 different kinds, but this was a Yorkshire Terrier. And she said, we want to give you Chipper because Chipper's so much like you all. He's so much alive, he's so much alert, he darts off in a second. And when Lee turned and looked at me, Lee had said that to me. He says, I wish for goodness sake you warned me when you're going. So we brought Chipper home. It's been my privilege through the past year to take Chipper out every morning at 7 o'clock, rain or shine, and he knows it. And so we go out for a half an hour walk, and we talk to each other and learn from each other. And this is what I want to share with you at the beginning of this day. I had been puzzled a bit about my own concept of the matter of free will in the kingdom of God. I don't know, and I wasn't sure that I liked the idea of free will. I felt like that I longed with all my heart to be tied to something. So I didn't want the complete freedom to make all my decisions, to just do everything on my own. I just didn't want it at all, because I had realized by this time my thorough inadequacy to live that kind of a life. So I was walking down the road, which is about 700 feet leading from the main highway to our house. And all of a sudden I looked at Chipper, and I thought, that's it. When I first got him, he isn't but this long, about a foot long. When I first got him, I allowed him about 4 feet, a little line rope to him about 4 feet long, until he learned how to stay in the road. We have some woods on one side of us and with some holes in it, and I knew if he was free and got in those woods and got in a hole, we wouldn't know where to find him at all. So I had allowed him about 4 feet, and when he got used to using 4 feet with me at the other end and using it wisely, I gave him another foot. And finally, in a year's time, his rope is now 33 feet long. And he has 33 feet. He's 33 feet away from me. I'm walking down the road, but he doesn't know that. He's so far ahead of me, he can stop, and he can go, he can smell, he can do anything else that comes naturally. And you see, he isn't at all concerned about the fact that I'm at the other end of the rope, and he doesn't know it. Except when I close my hand now. He's gotten so sensitive to the rope that if I close my hand, he knows he's going in the wrong direction. He knows that he ought to stop. And all I have to do is to close my hand around the rope, and he stops and turns and looks at me. He turns and looks at me with those great big brown eyes. You know what a Yorkshire Terrier looks like. And then he sits down and he just waits. And he sits there until I come up close to him, and I will smile at him and say, all right, time to go again. So I began to see that this is my relationship with God. Now, my dear people, when I share with you my relationship with God, I'm not telling you have to work this way. Never for a moment realize this. But I'm also, as you've heard me say so often, I'm saying for God's sake, don't discard it. Because you know that this whole thing of our relationship to God is like a rope tied from God to me, and the rope is love. And this rope of love, God has over the other end, and he is never going to let it go. And now that I know what the rope is, I'm not going to let it go either. And you know that the fact is that no matter where I go, what I do, I am tied to God. I am in touch with God, if you want to use the words we use so often. You are in touch with God. God is there. God is here. So you must always remember and never come to the realization or let yourself even think that I cannot touch God. I know in my past experience so often I have been with people and they will say to me, oh, I simply cannot touch God. And over people will say that even today, I am not able to touch God. I cannot feel the presence of God. I think one of the saddest things, I'm getting kind of hot on whether you all are now. I got to undo my jacket. One of the saddest things is for a person really and honestly, I always say, you know you don't mean it. You know you don't mean it. You're just saying something to me. No, people will say, honestly, I cannot touch God. All right, then, I say, listen, God is at the other end of your rope. If you will pray to be sensitive, just pray to be sensitive to the tug of the rope, then you're going to know that God is pulling you this way. He's saying to you, sit down and turn around and look at me. Sit down and just wait until I catch up with you. Of course, God is there, but in that thinking, wait until I catch up with you. Don't let your body go ahead of me. And, you know, really, I've come to see that all of my illnesses were not giving my body time to catch up with God. And anything that should happen to me in the future, body, mind, or spirit, it would just be that. And I could say as simple as that, but it's so profound because we don't know yet the meaning of it. So in this way of knowing that somewhere, somehow through this week, you're going to feel a little tug, God's hand will close on your thought. Now this tug comes through thoughts. I may be thinking something, and all of a sudden I feel this. All right, I'm on the wrong track. See, I may be thinking to do something or planning to do something. All of a sudden, here comes this. The hand of God, if you want to use it, this is the only symbol I have there. All right, Father, then this must not be quite the time. Something's wrong with these plans. I don't feel the great joy within my soul that this is for now and this is the how to do it. So you wait. So you wait. And you wait as little Shepherd sits down in the road and with his great big eyes looks up at me for me either to smile to go or to direct him otherwise. The beautiful thing is to really look up into the eyes of God, again symbolic. Look into the eyes of God within you and get your next direction. And the only reason we are ever miserable, I think week before last, I got a letter from a precious young mother. She said, may I come to see you just for 15 minutes? And she had to drive 150 miles for 15 minutes. And I just come 15 minutes so I could get a new perspective. My life right now seems to be awfully clouded. Well, I on the telephone, I said to her, calling her back, by all means come, and we will not just have 15 minutes, we'll have as long as you need, because actually we have 8 hours that we're supposed to sleep, and we don't have to do that. But so she came. I put a book in her hand, a tremendous book, and you know, when I saw her day before yesterday, I think that was the day, she came over and took hold of my hand and she said, oh, Ruth, I had driven the 70 miles then. She said, Ruth, that book is really making me new. Well, I had written her that the only thing that frustrated her, and I believe with all my heart that the only thing that ever frustrates anybody is that they are at a point of new growth and they refuse consciously or unconsciously to grow. And you see, when I come to a place where I refuse unconsciously, maybe I don't know I'm doing this way, consciously, unconsciously to grow. In other words, I don't say, Father, I know I've come to the end of this part of life. I know I've come to the end of this thought, this thinking, this way of thinking. Then I say, all right, what next? And so I sit in the middle of the road and wait. See? Now, if you recognize that, you're not going to be bothered about yourself. You're not going to be anxious about what you're doing. You're not going to be worried that nobody calls on you to do anything. You're not going to think, well, somebody's expecting something of me which I can't do. None of those things are going to be a part of your mental processes because you know that at this particular minute, God has closed his hand on the love rope to you, and he's saying to you, hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. I have something new for you. And another thing beside being God, being the thought that I gave you last night, God is here. Add to it this morning, I have something new for you. And then live like this in the days to come. All right, remember the love rope between Chipper and me. And I, of course, I'm God to Chipper. Now, you know that's true, because he depends on me for everything, his food, and Lee too. When I say me, I mean Lee and me. We have now decided which one it is. Last time we were here 5 years ago, you know, he told you the story that we had not yet decided. We were one, but we didn't know which one. But right now we know which one, and you know who he is too. I want to say a few. Now, you want to ask me anything about that? Thank you. All right, you want to ask me anything about that? About what I have just said? Any questions over what I've just said? The most wonderful things are happening as we work with young people and with groups of adults who are willing to become young people, is the fact that you can stop anywhere in any talk and say, all right, what's your reaction to that? What is your question out of this? I think of an experience. I had a wonderful experience a few months ago, meeting with a youth group, about 68 young people in one of our large churches in Richmond. And what they had written to me was, write us a paper on the many facets of God's love and give us the privilege of tearing it to pieces. I wrote back, I'll be delighted. So I wrote my paper and I went to meet with them at Sunday morning Sunday school, but the minister had said we could have the church hour too. A wonderful minister. He said, if you need 2 hours and a half Sunday morning, you young people take it. You and Ruth take it. He knew me. He knew I wasn't going to take it all, but anyway, we did. So that, and then after I finished my paper, I put the paper aside and just waited. Boy, I want to tell you, if you have ever been taken to pieces, you let a group of young people do it. But you know, they took me to pieces and they put me back together again, and you see the results of it today. But we had a grand time, and I want the same thing to happen to you right here while we are here this week. Don't swallow anything whole. Take it to pieces. Look at every facet of the truth that comes through Reg and through me and through Marge and through everybody who is trying to lead in any way and capacity, and say to yourself, that's mine. It's the most glorious thing when you come to a place that you recognize some truth as yours. And it's only the truth of God that you take as yours that's going to make any difference whatsoever in your life. You can read thousands of wonderful things in books. It's not going to make any change in your life. But if you come across something you say, that's mine, I will live by that.
The question I ask is, what do you feel the one ingredient?
Wait a minute.
What is the one ingredient that Chipper has in him for you that makes him stop when you pull on the rope?
He has no hindrance between his creator and himself.
Out of sight. And a little trust.
You know that Chipper sits there and looks up at me with those big brown eyes. I said, for heaven's sake, close them. You know, it just sits there, and you know, sometimes Lee looks at me like that too, and I say, well, you all shut your eyes. But seriously, precious people, everybody ought to look at us like that. Everybody ought to see God in us, and so clearly that they could not help to do anything but to bless and adore. Our precious morning meditation, praise the Lord. I think the way that I praise my Lord most is letting you see him in me so clearly that you adore him. See? That is what we really mean by adoration. I adore him to the extent that I allow him to be so adorable in me that you adore him. That's it. You know, don't you see what the Father's doing with us now? I'm so grateful for all this that has been brought out concerning Lee. I'm quite sure that everything you've said about him and his loveliness of thought and character and spirit will add to his complete healing and his preparation for being with us all again. Our card is endless. Our card is endless. I'm so thankful that you brought that out. You see, the beauty of being with people is the fact that other people think what you don't think. And yet that cord between me and God is endless. It's eternal. It reaches out through eternity. And that's the beauty. And you know, I tell people who are in the process of separating from body into the mind, into the life of mind and spirit, I tell them about this cord, and I tell them that they need never be afraid of anything that has been, is, or is to come, because we are tied to God. And all preparation that God has made for us, anytime, any place, anywhere, in body or out of body, is absolutely good. And you know, just that has relieved them so many fears of going into what they call the unknown. It really isn't unknown. Our future really isn't unknown. Our future is known to God, and if God is known to me and I am known to God, I have no fear about the future because God has it. If He has it, I have it. So you see, this is the thing that our precious people need, no matter what physical age they are. If there seems to be a time of transition because of one thing or another, and because of other human beings' unpreparedness to meet a desperate need, then you know they can really feel themselves being drawn into a larger life in the complete and undimmed presence of God. Now, I believe with all my heart that we can achieve that here in this body. I don't believe that we have yet. I think we're all on the road. But I believe that Jesus did. And you know, when Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, that's exactly what He said. I am the life for always, not just the life in the body. I'm the life in the physical body. I'm the life in the spiritual body. I am the life eternally. And I am showing you the way. Right now, I might as well put in my everlasting annual plea. Yes, there's a question.
I want to throw in an idea here.
I wish you'd come up here and throw it out that way. Come up here. Who are you? Bob. All right, good. Good. Can I do this?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Mildred's down there, so it's all right.
She hasn't said so.
She didn't object.
Oh, all right.
You're talking about the dog on a rope. We're not on a rope. God lets us make mistakes. Remember, David said, if I make my bed in hell,
right.
That's the mistake.
God is there.
He is there. God is everywhere. There isn't any limit to where He is.
Right.
He's always there. He loves us, whether we're in hell or whether we're walking right by His side. And, of course, we're always by His side.
I wish you'd say that over again, because, you see, people don't believe that. They don't believe in their own hells that He's there.
Yeah,
say it again.
If we make our bed in hell, He is there, and He still loves us when we're there. And no matter, He still loves us.
Right. It never changes.
Never changes. But He's given us that freedom to make that choice. And He doesn't throw us out when we make the wrong one.
No. Hold here just a minute. Chipper has 33 feet of choice. You know, I will allow him to go to the edge of the woods and go so far into the woods. And then when I see he's going further into the woods than he ought to go with the knowledge that he has of the woods, then I make the little tug. I feel that God's tugs on the human spirit is an avenue that we know such a little about. If we realize that this little feeling in me that checks me, right, that's God's tug. If something that I plan to do flops, that's God's tug. If I really saw God at work in me and everything, I would know that this eternal rope, see, I have all of time now is the length of my rope. And of course, God's all eternity is the length of his rope. Time is the length of my rope. Eternity is the length of God's rope. But if I only understood the tugs, and you know this brings out one of my new prayers, oh God, through this day, let me understand every tug at the end of your rope of love. Right?
Right.
You're good. Thank you, sir.
That's why I came up here.
You didn't come up here because you were good? You better had, because you are.
I heard Tommy Tyson say that nothing helps us when one is making a mistake and having to turn around and go back.
Yes, that's up. Now, don't misunderstand me when I say that. That's up to a certain stage of development. You see, I'm coming. Hold on. Up to a certain stage of my spiritual development, it has to be that way. I see in the life of Jesus. Now, wait a minute. He's the way, the truth, and the life. I see that as you grow toward his pattern, which he's given us, and you know his pattern, he did not do that. Now, Tommy's right, and I'm right, too. You see? Because we've got to see life as various stages of spiritual development. And if one leader says one thing, that leader is right at that point because that is where God has given him his revelation. If another leader says something else that appears to be a complete contradiction, that leader is right. Because the person, when I say leader, I'm thinking about the person who's sharing with you, because I think of everybody who shares with another as a potential leader and a potential hearer. You know, potential speaker and potential hearer. So, at every point of my physical, my spiritual development, you see, there is a different relationship to God. And the tragic thing is that I would hold on to today what my relationship with God required of me 10 years ago.
I said that in the beginning, you chose the rope for the dog. The dog didn't choose the rope.
Right.
So this is our free will. Do we choose? We have the privilege of choosing the rope with God, see?
Right.
This is where our free will comes in, is we can choose the rope. Where the dog couldn't. You put the rope on the dog, so.
All right, now, let me ask you something. Now, ultimately, now I'm talking about eternal things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about eternal things. Could that be, I'm only asking questions. I don't think I know all the answers. I think sometimes I do, but I don't quite know. Listen, but you see, eternally, God has that rope. And for me, the closer I get to Jesus Christ, the more I go in depth into his teaching and study, and the more I get into the depth of his love, I feel like he could never let me go. Because when I love you and I love Miley and I love the children, I can't think of a single thing under heaven or earth that they would ever do that would stop me from loving them. Right? Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay.
Oh, boy. You know, honestly, you're such a great bunch of people. All right, I'll come back to you. But anyway, let's have a time of silence, Neil. This has been so great. And thank you, Neil. We have really gone to the dogs. But you know that, when the closer, now let me say this, the closer we get to nature, the closer we get to the pure, undimmed creation of God, whether it be in the cell of my body, or whether it be in the cell of a little dog's body, or whether it be in the cell of a plant, it is all God's life. And you know, the fact is that the closer we get to him, the more we are going to deeply appreciate the fact that we are bound to him eternally. May we pray.